Hi, I'm Gary White for Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television, and I'm here with State Senator Jimmy Higdon with the 14th District, which includes Marion and Nelson counties in our area. At one point, you had Washington County in there.
I did.
So you've been hitting all the areas
here. I've actually served in all 6 congressional districts, Gary. That's almost an impossibility, but I have. And you know, Washington County was one of the counties I used to serve. You served Taylor County and Lincoln County and Mercer County and part of Pulaski County. So I've
all over the place.
I've been around.
So today we're here to talk about an issue. Last time we were together, we said that the special session would be coming up in the fall, and the governor has now announced that he plans to do that. There has been a date set. There has not been a date set.
That's correct. We assume it'd be sometime in October.
Okay, but the issue on the table for the special session is the pensions in Kentucky, and let's start at the beginning here and talk. How many pensions are there for the state?
Okay, right now the state has 7 pension systems. We have KERS, the Kentucky Employee Retirement System, and that also inside of that there's a hazardous and a non-hazardous system.
Okay.
And we have CERS, which is the County Employee Retirement System, and we have hazardous and non-hazardous. Hazardous duty being your sheriff and EMS and same way with KERS. Hazardous would be, you know, police officers and fire departments and hazardous duty folks that are in those systems. We also have a state police retirement system. That's 5 systems, and then we also have a legislative and judicial retirement systems. And KRS administers 5 of those systems. And each one of those systems, those 5 systems, they all have, back in 2013 we did a reform and we went to a hybrid plan. We started a new form. It's a true direct contribution. And defined contribution. It was instead of a defined benefit, and it's a hybrid plan. It's kind of a mix between a defined benefit and a defined contribution. And we did that in 2013. So each one of those plans has a tier 1, which is, and a tier 2 and a tier 3, and it gets very complicated. But KRS is administering about 15 different plans when you break those down into the different tiers, and each, like I said, the 5 of them each have different tiers. Okay. So it gets very complicated. It's clear as mud sometimes to try to understand. But the big thing is under the KRS umbrella, there's KERS, which is the Kentucky Employee Retirement System, CERS, the County Employee Retirement System, and in that CERS, probably the largest group of employees in CERS, Gary, is school employees, classified school employees, your bus drivers, cooks, janitors, teachers' aides. They're all in CERS plan.
Okay, and so of the 7, how many of them are considered properly funded at this time?
Okay, well, the worst funded is KERS. It's at 17% funded.
Wow. Okay,
and state police is theirs is about 30% funded, and then you have CERS hazardous and KERS hazardous and CERS, I failed to mention we also have TRS, Teachers Retirement System. It's administered separately. That really makes up the 7th one. The judicial and legislative retirement system is actually together, so I made a mistake there. Okay. There's 7, but TRS, Teachers Retirement System, and it's about 60% funded. Okay, so I'm sorry to lead you in the wrong direction on that, but I did make a mistake there. But teachers is about 60% funded. CERS about 60% funded. The legislative and judicial retirement is about, it's in the 80% bracket, about 85% funded.
Okay. So the legislative judicial one is kind of, right now that's not what we're discussing, because that's
it's not
adequately funded for.
It is adequately funded, and you know, one of the reasons for that, Gary, is most legislators and judges start their careers late and later in life, 40 and 50 years old, so they don't draw on that system as long as a typical retiree would be in the state system, where they work 27 years and they could you know, they draw on that system for quite a while. Their longevity, and they're retiring quite a bit earlier than a legislator or a judge would retire. So that's the difference in the two systems. I will tell you this: any changes we make to the these other systems, as we're talking about making changes to the system and the recommendations from PMF that met the other day, any changes we make to the others, we will also make to the judicial and legislative branch pension system also.
So it'll be all encompassing.
Right.
So we have, as you were saying, with some of them they're only 17% funded. There's a major need to revamp the systems, and it's been something that's been discussed for a long time, but the goal is, with a special session, to actually make some progress. And recently there was a study that I think we mentioned in the last one as well, by an outside organization to kind of make recommendations, which is all they are, recommendations of ways to potentially fix the situation, correct? And that study was released. Right?
That study was released, and that was a PFM group, and that study was released on Monday, the 28th of August, and you know that we've been waiting for that date for quite some time. We authorized this study back in the 2016 when we did the budget, so they've been working on this for quite some time, and they took I guess a hands-off and a third-party type, somebody that was not affiliated with Kentucky, to take a look at our pension systems and make recommendations. And they were only recommendations. And they were, you know, the recommendations were, you know, having state employees and police officers and firemen to work longer, cuts in benefits, and also for retirees to claw back some of the COLA, cost of living allowances that were made over the years. Like I told people yesterday at the meeting, I made sure that the people understood these are only recommendations. And so, you know, we take those recommendations and we go to the drawing board to talk with constituents and come up with a something that, you know, the goal is to save the systems. You know, the worst thing we could do for a state retiree or state employees that make them a promise and these systems run out of money. So the goal one is to save the system, and goal number two is to be fair about the changes we make to the systems. So to the governor's credit, Governor Bevin, to his credit, he has taken, you know, he's taken on this pension reform. It's you know, it's a tough job. It's one that, you know, nobody really wants to talk about much, but it's something that has to be done. The can has been kicked down the road all we can kick it, and now it's time to fix this problem. And so that's what we're going to try to do in October when we meet, and it's going to take money. You know, we've changed there's so many variables in a retirement system. You have these your actuaries give you these assumptions, and so some of the assumptions, one of the assumptions that we use is the payroll growth, and KERS has been using 4% payroll growth for quite some time, and there is no growth in our payroll. In fact, our payrolls are probably going down because we have less people working in state government now than for the last 20 years. So this percentage that we've set up, our actuaries set up for us to repay this unfunded liability. They set up this percentage of payroll, and what that does is you pay a percentage of your payroll, and you anticipate your payrolls to grow every year. So on paper, your payments would grow. But our payrolls haven't grown, so our reality is we're not paying what we should on these this unfunded liability. Actually, the truth be known, we're not even paying the interest on the unfunded liability. So our unfunded liability continues to grow. What we need to go to is level dollar, and level dollar is you take that unfunded liability and you spread it out over 30 years, and just like a home mortgage, you pay the same amount every year or every month that that's paid off, and no games or no gimmicks.
Yeah.
You look at the payment schedule and you pay it off. To go to level dollar on KERS is about $700 million a year.
Wow.
Okay, to go to level dollar
For how long?
30 years. $700 million a year for 30 years. You build a lot of roads for that. Also, our unfunded liability in TRS, the teacher's retirement, to go to a level dollar would cost about $400 million a year for 30 years to pay off that unfunded liability.
So together it's 1.1 billion.
You're good, Gary. Also, you have on top of that, you have CERS that has CERS hazardous and non-hazardous. It's about $90 million a year for them to pay off their unfunded liability over 30 years. Okay, so you add those up and it's serious dollars. Now, where do you come up with that money? You come up with that money by efficiencies in the system. If you make cuts to benefits and that sort of thing, or ask people to work longer, you can make up part of the money in there. Tax cuts or tax increases. So you only have about three places where, or there is, it was pointed out yesterday, there is a fourth place you can come up with money, and that would be a performance, a pension bond, to sell bonds to pay off pension debt, which is not recommended.
It's not.
It's not. So
that almost 1.2 billion that you're talking about there, is that new additional monies needed, or total and then whatever you're current?
That's new additional money
Okay.
above and beyond what we're already putting
Annually for 30 years.
For 30 years. Serious dollars.
That's a lot of money.
Another issue you hear about, and especially in Bardstown, the Bardstown City Council passed a resolution for CERS to separate from KERS. And
that's the county's retirement fund.
County's retirement and the state retirement, they want to separate. And each of them have their own group. And I was asked would I support that, and I'm trying to get the yes on that. But I do have some concerns. And in the front page story, one of the people in the know in Bardstown, they asked about the separation, and they said of CERS, the city and county retirement system, that the reason it was underfunded is that the legislature hadn't put in the proper amount of money. That's true on KERS, but CERS is a county and city retirement system and school system, so the state doesn't fund those at all. So there's some confusion over who funds those. And they've made the full actuarially required contributions now since the beginning of time, and they're only 60% funded. And there again, they're operating under some their assumptions are not where they should be. Now, the KERS board did vote last month to reduce their assumed rate of return from 7.5 to 6.5. And they voted to reduce their payroll growth from 4% to 2%. And that took their contribution rate, that CERS, that cities and counties and school boards had to pay in for their employees' retirement. It went from an 18% contribution rate to a 26% contribution rate, which is a fairly significant increase. And that's going to be difficult for city and county and school board budgets next year. Also, in CERS hazardous, that's your sheriffs and some law enforcement, EMTs, some EMTs that are operated by the county. That contribution rate, I think, has gone from like 26% to 41%. So again, another significant increase. That not only is the state budget going to be stretched next year, making these additional contributions for retirement, but also city and county. And so where we find ourselves is, for years we've overpromised on the benefits, and we've underperformed on as far as what these funds have made in the stock market and what the legislature has contributed, and the actuarial assumptions. All those have underperformed of what we've promised, and we find ourselves in a real bind. And like I said, in 2013 for KRS and CERS, we went to this hybrid plan, and that has helped, but those, we only have a small percentage of our employees in those plans. Most of our employees are still in the tier 1 full retirement plan.
Now, a few years ago, there were adjustments made to the pension plans, right? With lengthening the services and stuff of that nature. Did that make much of a difference?
Well, it made a difference, Gary, but again, it just, it only affected new hires. And like I said, we just, and the new hires that are in that system started January. Anybody hired after January the 1st, 2014. So you only have 3 years or 2.5 years of new hires in that system. So we really haven't seen any savings or any efficiencies from that system yet. As we go forward, we will. But our main issue has been with the tier 1 employees, and that was a system that was put in place in the 1930s. And so, in the actuarial analysis of those plans, since then, their insurance payments didn't really exist in the 1930s, and people are living much longer now than they did in the 1930s. So it's again, it's we have to start taking a look at all these systems, and again, come up with a plan that'll save the system and be fair to those employees and the taxpayers.
So it sounds like that current people who are currently in the system will be affected with the changes one way or the other.
Well, again, it's too early to tell what will be done. Like I said, we heard, we talked about the recommendations that the PFM group made. Those are only recommendations. So again, as we go forth and we'll be meeting with a lot of these interest groups to talk to them about compromises and what they might bring to the table to try to help us to work on a shared sacrifice where everybody gives up a little something to make sure that these plans remain solvent.
So right now you're kind of looking for feedback.
I am, and they can email me at the Kentucky Standard and the Lebanon Enterprise do a good job of keeping my email address and home phone number in there, and so they can call me at home at 270-692-6945. Email me at I've got several email addresses. The easiest one to remember is jimmyhigdon@windstream.net. That's the easiest one to jot down and remember. So feel free to reach out to me and let me know your feelings on this, because like I said, we will be working through the month of September to craft a solution to this. And like I said, we want to make sure that we do have constituent involvement on this. I'm getting a lot of emails after yesterday's meeting. The governor went online, I think, and did a Facebook Live, which was very interesting. I've never seen that done before. So I think everybody in the state understands that. I think for years, we've always talked about this pension crisis, but I think it's finally it's come home to roost, and everybody knows that we're in a crisis situation here, that we have to do something to save these plans and to do something that's fair to both employees and the taxpayers, and move forward on this.
And one unintended consequence that people are hoping doesn't occur is mass groups of people who decide to retire early or what have you.
And I'm hearing that every day, people saying, call me up and say, do I need to go retire? Do I need to go retire? And one of the things that they're afraid of, Gary, is everybody understands about, a lot of people understand that watch legislation about emergency clause. And what emergency clause is the day that a piece of legislation is passed and the governor signs it, it goes into effect immediately. Mm-hmm. We will not do that on this pension reform. We will not do that. Once we pass it, the governor signs it, everybody will have 90 days to look at and to evaluate what they need to do. Mm-hmm. And that's one of our concerns, is not to do something that will cause a mass exit. So we'll be looking at all that and trying to make some good decisions. It's a big issue.
Absolutely.
And a lot of moving parts, and and what we do now, again, will affect us when we do the budget, and it will also affect us when we do tax reform. So it's a lot of consideration will go into this legislation.
And as you had mentioned, there was some discussion at the Bardstown City Council with separating the different pensions. Should people be concerned about something like that, or I know you're trying still, you said you're still working on it, but how could that affect some of the local constituents?
I don't think that there's a lot to be concerned with at the local level. Like I said, one of the concerns that I, as a legislator, I had to be concerned with is we have administrative costs for these retirement plans, and as you administer them, it's if it costs you, $15 million a year to administer a plan, that's $15 million a year that's not going out to retirees. So you have to make sure that when you separate these, that they're set up to where they'll operate efficiently, mm-hmm. and that they're not a burden, that the administrative cost or the cost to run these systems is not a burden to the retirement system, because the money that pays for the administration of these retirement systems is paid for right out of retirement funds. So it's money that they don't have to spend to send out checks to retirees. So,
and sometimes those administrative fees are set, whether there are 50,000 people or 100,000 people in there. So if people start backing out and you're getting down to 20,000, you're still going to have your whatever that fee is often.
Right now, about 3/4, and I might be off a little bit on this figure, but about 3/4 of the assets and about 3/4 of the members of KRS belong to CERS, either cities, counties, or the school system. So about 3/4 of employees in KRS mm-hmm. Does belong to CERS. So only about a small number of them belong to KERS. About 25%.
And one other question too. You were saying, I think the least funded of the pensions was about 17% funded.
That's correct.
Did they say how long it would take for that to get to zero? Is there a time frame that you're
There
working
is.
within?
There is. If nothing is done, that system will be bankrupt or run out of money in 6 years.
Okay.
It has $1.8 billion in it, and we're paying out about $300 million more a year than we're taking in, so I'd give it about 6 years. It will be
depleted.
It will be depleted.
Okay.
Teachers retirement. We had a teachers retirement group that met a couple years ago, and very extensive with an actuary. And teachers retirement was probably good for about 25 years if no changes were made, and that probably sounds pretty good to somebody that's already retired. But a young teacher, looking at that and say, well, this retirement system is going to run out of money in 25 years. What am I doing in it? So, there's some real concerns there. So we have to make sure that we save these systems, that we get them back to, the goal is to get them to 100% funded. But get them above 80. I think we've done really well. But that's I think everybody can breathe a sigh of relief when we can get them back over 80, then work to get to 90.
Yeah. And we want to keep in mind too, some of these individuals, for instance the teachers, the pensions, all they have for retirement. They don't pay into Social Security or any other means that a lot of other individuals
That's
do.
correct.
So if that pension's not there, then they don't have anything for retirement.
Teachers do not participate in Social Security. That's correct, and that's that makes the TRS or Teachers Retirement System very, very important to them, because that's all they have.
Absolutely.
They do not have any supplemental income because they do not participate in Social Security.
So again, I've been talking with State Senator Jimmy Higdon, and there will be a special session regarding the pensions in the fall, probably in October, and as that gets closer, hopefully we'll have some more discussion. Maybe we'll have an opportunity for a live discussion and people can give you some of their feedback as we get a little closer and talk about that, and then we'll keep you up to date too on what happens at the special session.
Yep, thank you, Gary. That would be very good. Thank you for your hospitality, and again, I encourage the viewers and especially those teachers that are in TRS and city and county workers that are in CERS, and those who are in the hazardous duty program, and state employees that are in KERS. Feel free to give me a call or email me to let me know your concerns or your suggestions how we can find efficiencies. And again, we appreciate your service to the Commonwealth, and we want to make sure that whatever we do, that we save the systems and that it's fair.
Right.
That's our goal.
Well, this has been Gary White with State Senator Jimmy Higdon here on Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television.